You guys are watching Fight Feed, and today I'm going to be going through my picks and predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night Apex 1000 time. They've fought at the Apex card that is happening on 5/17 this Saturday. So guys, normally I'm trying to get these videos out sooner, but given all of the content and things happening with UFC 315, I'm a little bit behind on this one. But I'm going to go ahead and dive right into this card. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go through this real quick. If you guys want to watch this video and see my full breakdown for where or how I kind of go through my thought process in my picks, you can watch the full video. But what I will do to start this video off is just give you a summary of who I'm picking in each fight. First fight, I have Pennington beating Pinheiro. I have Park Hyun-sung beating Carlos Hernandez. I have Denise Gomes beating Elise Reed. I have Tainara Lisboa beating Luana Santos. I have Jared Gordon beating Thiago Moisés. I have Matheus Camilo beating Gabe Green. I have Julian Erosa beating Melquizael Costa. I have Nursulton Ruziboev beating Dustin Stoltzfus. I have Sodiq Yusuff beating Mairon Santos. I have Rodolfo Bellato beating Paul Craig. And finally, Michael Morales beating Gilbert Burns. Like I said, you can watch this full video to see my breakdown for each of these, but those are my picks for this card. So the first fight of this card, we have Tecia Pennington versus Luana Pinheiro. This fight is, honestly, it's not a fight that I'm really looking forward to be fully transparent with you guys. Tecia Pennington had a pretty abysmal performance in her last outing. I do feel that although the Cookie Monster Carla Esparza has one of the most boring styles I've ever watched, I do think in her, what was her retirement fight this past October, I feel the Cookie Monster should have got the nod in that win. Or loss, I guess, in her case. But Tecia Pennington won that bout. Now, taking a look at Tecia Pennington, and I think the only thing that is actually redeeming on this matchup for Tecia is that Tecia has a 10-7 record in the UFC, so 17 fights overall in the UFC. I believe she was also on one of the Ultimate Fighter seasons as well. She's 35 years old. She has 86% of her wins by decision, so the only way I can see Tecia really getting a win in this fight, to be honest with you guys, is by a decision. She's also never been submitted, and the reason I bring that up is because when we go and look at her opponent, Luana Pinheiro, Luana is 31 years old, definitely the younger, scrappier fighter at this time, I would say, but 3-3 in the UFC, so only 6 total fights compared to that of Pennington's 17 UFC fights. However, Pinheiro has 45% of her wins by submission, and she's on a 3-fight losing streak. So this fight's actually a lot harder for me to kind of calculate and ultimately pick a fighter to win or lose. What I am feeling in my gut is that, so Luana's going to have the reach advantage, but Tecia Pennington has that weird, like, somewhat of a striker, somewhat of a grappler type of style. Like, she's got a mix of both skill sets within her game. And I feel like Tecia's had a lot of decisions in her UFC career ultimately end up going her way, perhaps when she didn't deserve it, or vice versa. She's got a lot of decision wins and losses. I feel like due to the fact that Luana doesn't have as much experience, that this is somehow going to play a huge advantage on the side of Tecia Pennington. And I'm feeling like Tecia Pennington's going to get a win here via decision. Now, what I will say, though, for any of you who are hunting a certain method, Luana Pinheiro, I don't know. I can't really see her getting a decision win, but it's possible. I do think that if Luana is to edge this fight out, it might actually be via, a submission or a KO. But Tecia Pennington's very scrappy, and I think that she has enough of a skill set and enough experience in the UFC to continuously, put pressure on Luana Pinheiro and also or nullify any type of ground exchanges that happen. I feel like Tecia Pennington's going to probably win a boring decision, guys. Next fight on the card, Park Hyun-sung versus Carlos Hernandez. Okay, so this fight is a little bit more interesting as we keep moving up the card here. We've got a 29-year-old in Park Hyun-sung, and he is from the road to UFC. I don't remember which season because I really can't even keep up with how many seasons they've done of this. I do always, when it is on, I do watch the finales of this. I feel like they do a very poor job at marketing the road to UFC. Besides the point, Park Hyun-sung is 2-0 in the UFC. He has 44% of his wins by KO and then also 44% of his wins by submission. He is on a 4-fight win streak right now. Well, actually 9-fight because he's 9-0. Looking at his opponent here, he is Carlos Hernandez, age 31 years old. 60% of his wins are by decision. Has a few losses in the UFC. Definitely a lot more experience than that of Park Hyun-sung. He is 3-3 in the UFC, Carlos. And I think in this fight, what is, obviously playing in favor of Carlos is that he has that UFC experience, but he also has that experience in the UFC losing by submission and KO. And given that Hyun-sung has, very minimal decisions on his record, when you consider the fact that 44% is taken by KO, 44% by sub, I feel as though Park Hyun-sung is going to have the better game here and will be able to close this one out and get a W. Not really sure how he'll get the W. I just know that Carlos Hernandez, seeing that he's lost a few of his previous fights, I think that this fight's also happening at bantamweight, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Carlos, we're going to just verify this real quick, y'all. Mr. Carlos. Oh, this is happening at flyweight, y'all. Which means Hyun-sung Park probably missed weight in his last fight because he's shown as 132 pounds. So, regardless, I just feel like when you look at the record of Park Hyun-sung and the way he's been able to close these finishes and get these wins in the UFC, he's only 2-0 in the UFC, but I don't think I've seen that much of a dominant force in Carlos Hernandez to where he'll be able to, nullify the game of Park Hyun-sung. So my pick here is Park Hyun-sung. It could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if you guys are picking one way or the other here. Next fight on the card, we got Elise Reed versus Denise, probably Denise Gomes. We've got Elise Reed 4-4 in the UFC, age 32 years old. 75% of her wins by decision, guys. Her last fight was October 24th. And I just put notes down here, guys. These are notes that I capture based on what I'm looking at for each fighter. It could be different. Some fighters don't get a note like when they last fought, but I'm just calling that out because Elise Reed, 4-4, not like the most exciting fighter in the UFC. Looking at her recent wins and losses, she's a win-loss, so 50-50 there, 50-50 in the UFC. And then Denise Gomes, on the other hand, Brazilian, 4-2 in the UFC. She's got a winning record there, age 25 years old. I like that she's, significantly younger here by 7 years, but almost has the same amount of fights. It's 8-6 in terms of fights. So Elise Reed has 8 UFC fights and Denise has 6 UFC fights. Looking at Denise, she has 60% of her wins are by KO. She seems to be the more dangerous opponent in this matchup. I'm not going to, we're not seeing a significant size advantage for Elise Reed in this case. She's only 1 inch taller. The reach is nullified, 63-63. I feel like Denise Gomes really just looks like the stronger opponent here just because of the fact she has power that can put Elise Reed out or hurt her. And then ultimately, I think that power on the side of Denise Gomes is going to allow her to dictate the pace of the fight, especially if she gets or catches Elise Reed early. Elise Reed's probably going to be hesitant on the feet and ultimately, swinging things in favor of Denise. So that is my pick for this fight. Guys, this is not the sexiest fight night card that we've had. Just being totally honest with you. The next fight on the card, we have Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. Luana Santos has looked really good in the UFC, 3-1, only 25 years old. She's got 50% of her professional wins by submission. She had a pretty lackluster performance, though, when she just fought Casey O'Neill last August. I guess it's not just fought. But looking at her overall record, she's got a loss, win, win, win. Definitely a solid fighter in the UFC. Had some success. Now, this is the thing, though. This is one thing I'm going to call out about her in this fight. She is fighting at bantamweight in this matchup. I think she only has one other bantamweight fight in the UFC, which she won by rear naked choke. Now, when we look at who she's fighting in this fight, however, I feel like Luana's the smaller fighter. She's going to be the smaller fighter, is how I feel. I will see how it looks the night of. I know height-wise she's 1 inch shorter, but when we look at Tainara Lisboa, she is 2-0 in the UFC. Their records are very similar, 7-2 and 8-2. But Lisboa's got a little bit more of that, she's 34 years old. She's a little bit older, but she also seems to mix things up a bit more. She has 43% of her wins are by KO and 43% of her wins are by submission. And she's a true women's bantamweight fighter. She is on a 5-fight win streak as well. That's not all in the UFC, obviously, but 4 fights, her last 4 fights are all wins. What I worry about for Santos in this matchup is just that Lisboa has that. I think she just has a better striking background. And Casey O'Neill, when we look at how Casey O'Neill was kind of able to piece Luana up on the feet, I worry about Luana going up against Tainara, who has that striking acumen, but then also has more experience. I'm sorry, she doesn't have more experience, so that's incorrect. But what I worry about is that Tainara has more experience on this earth than Luana Santos. She's probably likely to be the stronger opponent, especially because she is a true women's bantamweight fighter and has been fighting at bantamweight. And so because of that, my initial thought is I'm leaning towards Tainara Lisboa getting a win here, guys. I don't know why. I want to pick Luana Santos, but I picked Luana Santos when she fought against Casey O'Neill, and I just was not very impressed, guys, with how she performed there. We're going to see what happens. But I'm going to go with Lisboa. Fuck it. Next fight on the card, we got Jared Flash Gordon versus Thiago Moisés. 8-6 in the UFC for both of these gentlemen. This is another matchup where the UFC has just somehow pulled together 2 guys that have a very similar track here. Very similar in size too. I think the main difference between these guys, one's coming off a loss. Now, looking at Jared Gordon, age 36, and in the lightweight division, that's not a very positive feature there. But Mr. Gordon, if you guys have watched him fight, he is a very scrappy fighter. He's able to mix it up quite a bit on the feet. He has a good clinch game against the cage. Can take guys down, doesn't normally do it though, but will, kind of just implement a game of mixing up his striking and mixing up his attacks on the feet. At times using the grappling just probably to, potentially gain a advantageous position on the ground or get him up against the cage and do some clinch work. 85% of his wins by decision. What does that say? I mean, it says that he could be boring at times, but I think Jared Gordon's always out there to bang. He'll always go and throw down. If he can find a finish, he'll go for it. I just think the thing that I like about Jared Gordon, this is a outside factor that you don't necessarily see in the stat books, but he is a guy who used to be addicted to drugs and has dedicated his life to being sober. I do think that actually is something that plays in his favor. He is a guy who's probably been on death's door several times. I think he has. He's actually said that. This is a guy who came, from having that addiction to finding a career in MMA and actually finding success in MMA. Not only just MMA, but the premier promotion that is the UFC. I think Jared Gordon, and also let's look at his last couple fights. His last fight with Hak Paras, he literally should have won that fight. That fight was his. In my opinion, he won. Hak Paras, I think, got 2 bullshit decisions in a row. Actually, I think his last one was more fair in his favor. But against Jared Gordon, I think Jared Gordon won that fight. And so Jared Gordon being 36, I'm not super worried about that. But I think that all relies upon which version of Thiago Moisés we're going to get. Because Thiago Moisés has been a world beater at times in his career, especially in the UFC. Both these guys, like I said, have a lot of experience in the UFC. And Thiago Moisés has this huge youth factor in his favor here. But he is more of a submission-based fighter, getting 42% of his wins by submission. He does have wins over some top guys, but also has lost to several guys as well. He kind of just seems to be hot and cold, like I said. And I think if this is a Thiago Moisés who comes out there looking for the finish, perhaps he gets the edge on Jared Gordon. But if this is a Thiago Moisés who's kind of gun shy off the rip and lets Jared Flash Gordon, get his game on, and I think Jared has a very unique fighting style where if he gets you to play his game on the feet, he somehow ends up, winning the fight, whether it be by decision or perhaps by a very close, he loses those decisions, like the one against Patty the Batty. And I don't know, that has me thinking, like, do I go Jared Gordon here? Do I go Thiago Moisés? I think my initial thought, just based off of what I've seen from Thiago Moisés, I just haven't seen him be that guy when it comes to who he's fighting. Jared Gordon's not going to be a guy that's just ready to up and quit, the second there's adversity. I think he's going to fight through adversity if there is any. And I just think that Jared Gordon has an unbreakable mentality. I feel like Jared Gordon could get a W here, guys. It's all predicated on which version of Thiago Moisés we're going to get. I feel like Jared Gordon's pretty standard in his approach. He's always kind of looking like the same guy, in a good way, though. He has a good fighting style, and he doesn't really stray or switch up. And he doesn't generally have, like, moments in a fight where, well, oh, fuck, this happened, and now I'm just going to be, like, on skates. Like, Jared's been hurt in fights and just keeps walking forward and throwing bombs of his own. So, like, I feel like Thiago Moisés doesn't have that side to him, and I'm going to pick Jared Gordon in this fight, and I could be dead fucking wrong. And I have, like, having trouble with this matchup because I feel like Thiago Moisés has those threats on the feet and the ground, but Jared Gordon's a very good, like, he's not, like, amazing at any one thing. I think he's very solid at several different things. So I feel like in this fight, the only thing that is in Jared's disadvantage would be his age, but I feel like he'll be able to ink out a win over Thiago Moisés. Next fight on the card, we got Gabriel Green versus Matheus Camilo. So, guys, not a lot of info on Matheus. As you can see, he's the locked character from Mortal Kombat here. But Gabe Green, 2-3 in the UFC, age 32. 55% of his wins are by submission, which is surprising because this dude, when you've seen Gabe Green fight, this guy goes out there to fucking bang. Like, he started scrapping with Brian Battle, got caught, knocked out. He tried scrapping with Ian Gary. Like, he goes out there and, he wants to put on a good fight, and that's very fun to watch. Like I said, he's had some good fights in the UFC. He's fought some top talent in the UFC, and, I wouldn't say had much success because he generally is finished when he's fought those guys, but he's taken a lot of damage as well. And although there's not a lot of info on Matheus, I looked him up. 0-0 in the UFC. I believe he is 11. Oh, shit. Let's go see what his record is because I didn't write it down. Matheus Camilo. So, where the fuck you at, bro? Camilo. There we go. Okay, 9-2 pro record, 24. He's young, very young. Sorry, guys, just making sure I've got my document here. So, Matheus Camilo is 24 years old. 44% of his wins are by knockout. 6-fight winning streak. Just not a lot of info on him, not a lot of tape either. I was able to watch a few of his KOs. Guys, this dude is from the videos I've seen, not only is he like from the Amazonian tribe in Brazil, he looks like a welterweight, I suppose it's welterweight, a welterweight version of Alex Pereira. He throws hooks with bad intentions on them, and in a couple of his KOs, they were one-shot hook KOs. Very powerful. He also has a submission threat as well. And I think where I'm leaning in this fight, guys, Gabe Green has more experience. Gabe Green can slug it out, but I feel like because Gabe Green's had so much damage that Matheus Camilo has the potential to catch him and put him out cold. So I feel like that's the way I'm leaning right now. I think I'm going to pick Matheus to get the job done. But like I said, not a lot of experience overall. Definitely not as much experience in the UFC. But I do think that this is going to be a fight where if he's able to catch Gabe Green, it's not going to be in Gabe Green's favor given the amount of damage he's taken. Next fight on the card, we got Julian Juicy J Erosa versus Melquizael Costa. This is a fucking hard fight to pick, guys. Now, you guys might be saying this is not a hard fight to pick. Most of you might be like, oh, it's definitely Costa. Costa's gonna fucking smoke him, bro. Like, I don't think so, though. Juicy J is a scrappy vet, guys. 35 years old at the lower weight class. Definitely not a good thing here. But he's 9-7 in the UFC. So he's 16 fights in the UFC to a guy with 6 fights in the UFC. They've fought similar opposition in the past. Julian Erosa was able to choke Christian Rodriguez out, and Melquizael went to a lackluster decision over Erod. And so what I think is interesting about this fight is, like I said, although Julian's 35, he's got 45% of his wins are by submission. But he's one of the scrappiest fighters on the roster in the UFC. Like, the ability to mix it up on the feet and the ground. I think he will have a decent size advantage just in terms of his frame. But I think has looked very strong in his grappling exchanges, although he's going to be smaller. Feel like he might actually have an edge if they hit the ground. However, that's where Julian Erosa has this ability to also have very scrappy submissions on the ground. Not to say that Costa wouldn't outclass him there. I think that Erosa just has enough of a threat there to where it'll be more scrappy than one-sided is my way I look at it. Melquizael, like I said, 4-2 in the UFC, 28 years old. So he's got that youth advantage here by 7 years. 35% of wins are by sub, and 35% of his wins are by decision. So I feel like he's not going to be as much of a threat on the feet in this fight, in my opinion. I think Erosa might actually be able to edge things out on the feet, if I'm not mistaken. But taking a look at both these guys, they're both on 3-fight winning streaks with a loss there before. I think that overall, what this fight boils down to is, can Costa get control of Erosa on the ground and employ or deploy, whatever the word is, his game plan, which is normally like either getting a submission or edging out a decision. Now, can he do that, or can Erosa make it scrappy in those exchanges and land more damaging shots like we know Erosa can, or even get Costa in his own, catch Costa in a dangerous Julian Juicy J Erosa type submission like the guillotine, which he's been able to choke a few people out with, including C-Rod. I think this is an interesting fight. I'm going to actually go with Julian Erosa here, guys. I know that might be nuts, and I might be paying the piper for that one, but we'll see what happens. I think Julian Juicy J has got this one in the bag. Next fight on the card, Dustin Stoltzfus versus Nursulton Ruziboev. This fight is all, holy shit, dude, Ruziboev's got fucking hella fights. What the fuck? 35-9-2? Wow, damn. Anyways, Dustin Stoltzfus is 3-5 in the UFC, age 33. He's age 33. 38% of his wins by sub and 38% of his wins by decision. Now, Dustin also has some sneaky power, guys. We've seen him, like, he fought Bruno Ferreira and the Hulk. He hurt Bruno quite a few times until he got KO'd. He also knocked out Marc-Andre Barrio. So, like, he's definitely got some fucking clubs there that he can unleash in this fight. But I would say overall, he's win-loss. He's kind of hit or miss here, and he's averaging more losses than wins in the UFC. Whereas Nursulton Ruziboev, very tall and big frame for this weight class, 6'5" with a 76-inch reach. Only a minor reach advantage here, but a definite size advantage overall with that 6'5" frame. Also age 31, so a brief youth advantage, nothing crazy. But, like I said, very long middleweight, and a 56% of his wins by submission, which I would think that he has more KOs. But what I've noticed with him, he's got those long arms and that long build where he uses his straights perfectly. And because of that, he has strong KO power. He's KO'd a couple people in the UFC with his brief amount of wins, but he's coming off of a win-loss, win-win. We do know his loss came at the hands of Joaquin Buckley, and I feel that was all tied to Ruziboev having to cut weight to 170. I think that he was just drained and he just didn't have anything for him, because he normally fights at middleweight. and this is a middleweight bout. So my pick here is that Ruziboev will get the finish. I think that he has a very strong potential to catch Dustin Stoltzfus and knock him out, and that's what I think is going to happen. Next fight on the card, we got Sodiq Yusuff versus Mairon Santos. Another interesting fight, guys. I don't know which way I'm going on this one. 6-3 in the UFC is Sodiq Yusuff. He's age 31. He's turning 32 on Saturday, so it's his birthday this Saturday. 46% of his wins by KO, 46% of his wins by decision. He's got a loss-loss, win-win on a 2-fight losing streak. Now, when we look at Mairon Santos, he's 16-1 overall. He looked great on The Ultimate Fighter, but Mr. Santos did not win his last fight, in my opinion. I believe that Francis Marshall beat him. He got caught multiple times and dropped. Definitely not a good showing from him. He's 24 years old, so he's definitely going to have youth advantage here. But he's at that young age of 24 where I don't know if that youth is much of an advantage or if Yusuff's going to be the much stronger opponent out there because of the fact that Mairon Santos is kind of still coming into his prime. But when we look at stats, Mairon Santos, 53% of his wins are by KO. Like I said, worried about his last performance. He was hurt badly on the feet. He has the potential, though, to KO Yusuff, given that Yusuff's coming off of a pretty brutal beatdown by Diego Lopez last year. So it can go, the two ways I see this going is Santos, either trying to strike and maybe catching Yusuff, or Santos trying to bring him to the ground and then just, use ground game, or Yusuff, catching Mairon Santos on the feet and hurting him. Dude, this is a hard fight to pick, guys. I want to pick Yusuff since it's his birthday, but I also feel like Santos is going to have, I don't know, guys. Santos just has those different ways to win the fight, and that's what worries me here, is I think Mairon has more capability when it comes to ground game. I think you know what? Last time I did this, I went with Juliana Miller. I'm going fucking Sodiq Yusuff. Let's go. Next fight on the card, we got Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig. Rodolfo Bellato is 1-0 in the UFC. He's age 29. He's going to have a very big youth advantage here. Limited experience in the UFC. I think he has 2 fights, though. He's 1-0 and a tie. Coming off of his last fight was a draw. He's got 3 wins. I think he's going to come out with some motivation to get a W here. 57% of his wins are by KO. Very strong power and frame for that light heavyweight division. The guy is built pretty like a fucking log house cabin. He's also never been submitted in his career. Now, albeit his career he hasn't fought guys like Paul Craig. Now, on the other hand, we got Paul Craig, 9-9 in the UFC. As we know, the guy to actually submit the current light heavyweight champion, Magomed Ankalaev, during his debut. Paul Craig is one of those guys, man, where he could go out there on any night and lose by, like, devastating KO or, like, somehow throw up a submission and submit, like, some of the best that we've seen in the light heavyweight division. A few names, Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, just a couple there. To give you perspective of like what his acumen is from a ground perspective. He also beat Andre Muniz in the middleweight division, who was like a killer when it came to submissions. But Paul Craig's 37, turning 38 here soon in July. 76% of his wins by submission. He's just taking a lot of damage, guys, but he has a wealth of experience. When you tie all of those elements into the fact that he's also on a 3-fight skid, I have to go with Rodolfo Bellato in this fight, guys. I think Bellato is going to be able to catch Paul Craig and hurt him and potentially get the finish. And maybe Paul Craig will retire, but we'll see. The next and final fight on the card, we've got Gilbert Durinho Burns versus Michael Morales. So just taking a look at these two guys, you got a 15-8 in the UFC. Gilbert Burns, the guy is a fantastic fighter. He's fought the best of the best. He's beat the best of the best. He's also lost to the best. Fought for a title once against Kamaru. Looked good against Kamaru till he got caught with a jab. He's 38, turning 39 in July. So the age element here is worrying just on paper. Also, he has a 3-fight losing streak. Three of his last 4 are losses, with a win coming before those. 41% of his wins are by submission. He's really been the gatekeeper, guys, for like these high-level talent either moving up into the division or being stopped. And the recent history here is that he is the gatekeeper, but he's been keeping the gate open for these guys. He's let a few of them through, like Jack Della Maddalena, and then notably the Sean Brady fight. He's kind of let these guys slip past and get through the gate. Now, Michael Morales, on the other hand, a hot, steaming prospect here, 25 years old, 5-0 in the UFC, 17-0 overall. So he's got a 17-fight professional win streak. He's never been 5 rounds, though, guys. That is something I want to call out when we look at just overall experience. Not ever going 5 rounds. He's never needed to because he's either closed the fight out before then or only fought in 3-round fights. But that is something to keep in mind here. This is going to be his first test where he has the potential to end up going 5 rounds, fighting a guy who is as good and crafty as that of Gilbert Burns. Now, no losses, and he's got that youth advantage, and I think he has the power advantage, guys. He's been knocking people out left and right. 71% of those wins are by KO. Guys, if I'm just looking off recent history and age, I don't know how much Gilbert can do. Gilbert's still a great fighter, but I just don't know if Gilbert will be able to stop this Ecuadorian madhouse that is Michael Morales. I think Michael Morales is a really good fighter. He's shown lots of great ability, not only in striking, but just in different areas of his game. I ultimately think Michael Morales will get the W here. Thank you guys so much for watching these predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night on 5/17. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can be in tune with not only my prediction videos, but also my pick tracker updates and some of the other content that I'll be posting. And also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like. And I would love to get your input on who you think is winning each fight this weekend. Make sure you guys comment that below. I would love to have a back and forth with you guys if we can. Once again, thank you, and I will see you guys in the next one.